now that I got your attention with this ominous walk into the frame, let's talk a little bit about defenses in swordsmanship. This will come in really handy if you're attacked in a dark alley with a sword. Yeah, not very likely, but hopefully this might be useful for people who are new to HEMA, historical European martial arts, or game designers who are looking for inspiration for animations, or somebody who's just interested in nerdy stuff. Could all be. And before I get into it, here's a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, which is Life is Feudal. It's an MMO which visually looks a lot like Mount and Blade, but also has Minecraft elements. Actually, you know what, we shouldn't always compare everything to Minecraft. Well, how about Haven Hearth or Salem as more obscure examples? Either way, so a survival and crafting MMO where you start with absolutely nothing, clad in rags, you have to make everything yourself, you have to chop down trees and saw logs and dig, etc., mine, and then you build up from nothing. You can terraform everything, you can build tunnels if you want, you can do all kinds of things, join together with other people to build towns and roads and trade, fight, all of that. A lot of things. Unfortunately, it involves people, and people suck. But if you don't have too much of an antisocial disposition, you might want to try it out. Link is down below. Okay, so swordsmanship, defenses. If somebody comes at you with a blade, be it sharp in real historical combat or blunt in HEMA practice, you want to do something about it, of course. So there are several basic responses you can have, defensive reactions. One, and I'm gonna need my evil twin for this one. That's right, bitch. Hi, Lax. How's it going? I'm so evil I don't even have a proper shadow. So, if he throws a cut at me, one of the most basic things I can do is just evade. Just step away, be it back or to the side. Now, evasion is a simple and effective defensive action, but it can be risky. For example, say I'm in high guard, and it looks to him like I'm about to cut vertically straight down. So he goes to evade that, but then it's actually a diagonal cut. Stop whining, it's a blunt blade. So that'll hit him. Or say if he steps back when I throw the cut, but I chase him with a thrust, then it's also not a good time. So the drawback here is you're just relying on being where the opponent's blade is not at the time. Now, if you misjudge their timing or reach or screw up in any way, there's no fail-safe, so to speak. You will get hit. But if you do pull off an effective dodge, you put the opponent in a pretty bad spot. Unless, of course, your opponent is skilled and experienced enough to not expose themselves any more than necessary during the attack. That makes follow-ups after an evasive action a bit more difficult. Anyway, so moving on to the next defensive action, it's what I call a block. So if the opponent cuts at you, you just raise up and put the blade between yourself and the opponent's blade. So you stop it dead and you're safe. This can be done in different ways. You can also, when the opponent cuts at you, support the blade with both hands, catch it that way, like so, which can lead to grappling and other follow-up techniques. And, well, there's not too much to say here. This is the most common defense that you see in video games and movies, the static block. The next one you sometimes see, but much more rarely, and that's what I call a parry. Now, you can debate which terms to use, but in this case I apply the term parry to a deflectional defense. So rather than just stopping the opponent's blade dead when he cuts, I'm just going to use the momentum to let the blade push my own out of the way, and I can counter directly using the opponent's energy to power my own counter cut, basically. So in this case, this can often be used with lateral movement. Evasion and blocking or parrying can be combined. And in fact, that's the safer way to do a dodge. So if you step to the side and you still raise up your blade, just in case something happens, it's still there to protect you. So it's a failsafe, essentially. Then we've got the counter cut. Now this can be done in the way that's described in the historical fighting manuals as a master cut used against a certain cut. It's almost a rock, paper, scissors kind of thing, where a particular master cut will defeat another cut. For example, if he throws a downward cut at me and I use his workout, that will break his strike and
break you.
Knock him in the head at the same time. Stop moaning. So what this does is it breaks the line of the attack, displaces the opponent's cut, and strikes them in the head at the same time. This can also be done with in a variety of different ways. Like, for example, the Wrath cut does the same thing. He strikes at me, I just cross the line aggressively and displace his blade and hit him. So this is arguably the best defensive action. That's what the historical manuals advise. Some of them, particularly the German longsword tradition, doesn't really cover blocks a whole lot, or parries even for that matter. The way I've read them and understood them so far, it just seems like this is kind of the last ditch defense. Like if everything else fails and you just have to, what I'd like to call the oh shit defense, it's just that kind of like, oh no, like you have to very quickly react and just bring the blade in between yourself and the opponent to keep yourself safe. If they're doing some shenanigans that you can't effectively counter in time, then this is the last ditch solution. You just cover yourself. You just make sure that you're not getting hit, because that's the most important thing in historical combat. Hitting the opponent matters a lot less than not getting hit, because if you get maimed or mortally injured, then you've lost. It's as simple as it is. So the counter, or what is more accurately called a single tempo defense, a single tempo as in you do your defensive action at the same time as the opponent attacks, that is a very effective way of dealing with that, because you're threatening them at the same time as you're defending yourself. It doesn't get much better than that. Countercutting can also be used in combination with evasion. If you step back, you bring yourself out of the reach of the opponent's blade, but the opponent's arm is within your reach. So if you step back and cut to the opponent's arm, then you're safe and you break the attack, because severed muscles, tendons, and maybe even bone do not lend themselves to effective attacks. Alright, so those are the fundamental basic defenses. I'd argue that just about anything you can do to keep yourself safe from an opponent's attack falls under one of these categories, maybe aside from binding and winding. So if your opponent threatens you with a blade, with a thrust, be it with a rapier or a longsword, and you bind and gain control of the blade, constrain, and thrust on your own, or do something else from the bind, like grappling or wrestling, that's a different sort of defensive action. You could kind of put it under deflectional, maybe deflectional and counter. So the different categories can definitely mix to an extent, but yeah, overall that about sums it up from my point of view, and I hope you found this helpful or entertaining in some way. And by the way, I'll leave a few links down below to websites where you can order reproductions of historical arms and armor and other interesting stuff.
Okay, I've had enough of you. You know nothing, and I'm going to take care of you right now. Prepare to...
Oh, watch out, flying pommel! Lax is such a loser.